Right. So if you could introduce yourself, give us your name, your class year, and your major, and then also tell us your current profession.
So, hi everybody, Xavier family. My name is Blair Dotin-Haley. I graduated in the December class of 2002 in the political science department. And currently I am an entrepreneur, an activist, a media personality, a producer. Yeah, well, there's so many ways to describe all that I'm a part of right now with my husband, but I think that kind of covers it. Entrepreneur is like I think the catch-all that catches it all.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what led you to pursue that career path to become an entrepreneur, take things into your own hands?
I think it it called me. I realized after working for so many years in service of other people's dreams and missions that why not take the energy that I was expending my time, effort, talent to give to someone else who that would pay me a salary that I could on the 1st and 15th be certain I was going to get. And I think that level of security and comfort keeps a lot of us from ever even considering the idea of going out into some kind of entrepreneurial endeavor. And so while I know entrepreneurship is not for everyone, I never imagined that it was for me, but it found me, and I would never go back.
Wow. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and
Yes.
uh, what all of your various things are?
Yep. So about 5 years ago, I launched a clothing brand that started with 6 T-shirts. That was born from taking, and actually, one of my Xavier classmates, Courtney Danclair, gave me the idea. She said to me, she said, all of those things that you say on social media that people love so much, if you took some of them and put them on T-shirts, that people would buy them. I'm telling you, you have something. And so that's what I did. I literally called my husband that night, and 3 weeks later, we launched what is now become the Blairisms clothing brand. And so that's where kind of my entrepreneurial journey, I wouldn't say it necessarily started there because about a year or two before that, my husband and I launched what is called the Dotin-Haley Group because we knew that our talents, abilities could help other people build, manage some of their endeavors. And so we started consulting and then launched the clothing brand as a part of that. And then during the pandemic, transitioned into media production and hosting. We started during the pandemic what is now called the Savage Chat series. It is a personal journey. I like to call it a talk show because that's how I think about it. But it is a digital talk series that is about the celebration of Black people, celebration of Black stories. And so we started it during the pandemic, and we've now completed 3 seasons of the show. We've spoken to over 400 people from every aspect of Black culture and Black life, from educators to entertainers to journalists to activists to politicians. And so creating that space has now provided the opportunity for us to branch out into other media spaces and into other forms of activism through conversations, through storytelling. And so we just signed a consulting contract with the International Sierra Club to talk about climate justice in the diaspora over the next year. And so we're kicking that off actually this weekend with our first conversation with the Senior Director of International Climate Policy for the Sierra Club and New Orleans, and also who is also from New Orleans, Sherelle Blazer. And New Orleans' own Sonny Patterson is going to be joining us to kick off this conversation about climate justice and the diaspora and how important it is for people for African Americans to connect some of the things that are happening in America to Black people with what's happening in the diaspora. We're having some of the same struggles in terms of fossil fuels and coal usage and soil pollution and water pollution and access to resources. And so we're now kind of in a space where who knows where, and that's the great thing about entrepreneurship and having your own, is it can take you anywhere, right? You know, if you're working what we know to be the way typical employment works is that you're on a chain of a line of hierarchy, and you're hopeful that the person that's above you either gets out of your way or you're able to get to that next place and get to that next place. Well, when you build your own, there are so many ways that you can go, and there's so many ways even beyond your imagination and beyond your planning that can unfold in front of you.
Right, right.
I hope that answered the question.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So you talked a lot about policy and all these various stories that you're capturing, which is beautiful, particularly in the space of media, right? Where we don't necessarily see all of those stories. We don't necessarily get, that representation. And so what challenges did you encounter, right? That's not something that's typically happening, but now we're seeing the influx of more Black stories being told. Did you encounter tensions, challenges when trying to do this?
I mean, I think there are always going to be tensions and challenges. There are always going to be people who don't either see the value in what you're doing or don't think that you're the right person to be doing it or don't see. And so what I, I have a very I'm only paying attention to those who are in full support. I don't have room for detractors. And so if I do know that, for example, being a Black queer man, uh, I know that at the outset makes some people based on their own belief system completely shut down and completely shut us shut. I can't expend my energy
Mhm.
trying to convince anybody around their own prejudices. And so the what I would honestly, especially, and that's not to say that in entrepreneurship there are not challenges, right? There's the struggle of making sure that you capture your audience and you keep your audience, you keep them engaged, you keep them, and you continue to produce in a way that is meaningful and substantive. You know, you dance with the one who brung you. You continue to keep them there how you got them there. So there are always those and there are times when the business, where there are times when I'm like, wait, are we gonna sell another shirt this week or month? Like, what's going on? There are times where life is happening. But in terms of kind of like this idea of uh, uh, challenge in terms of how other people perceive you or what you're doing, and whether or not they will support what you are doing, know that whoever is at the party with you is who is supposed to be there always. And as difficult as that might be for our ego sometimes, because there are people we want at the party that don't want to come.
Mm.
You got to be all right with it, and you don't not party because they don't want to be there.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And I think too, you're touching upon, right, this larger conversation about inclusivity and really promoting all of these things.
Well, this is the thing about, as you mentioned in the question, now after the summer of 2020, there's all of this conversation about DEI and and representation and all of the things, all of the things. These stories have been here to be told all of this time. And we have to be mindful, and this is something that I'm ever mindful of in creating content. Who am I creating it for? Who am I really talking to? Who am I trying to reach with this? And I think a lot of what has been happening, and we know this to be true in this moment and historically, that a lot of these times in history become performative for people. You know, they want to change their Instagram page, or that they're post a black square, or do something that is performative, when this fight for freedom, justice, equality, representation that folks have been a part of for our lives, for all our lives. This is not something that we just fell into 2 years ago. And so one of the things that I think is important is understanding that there are certain people. So for example, this show that is, and they're probably gonna cut this from, don't say this, don't cut this, Xavier. But this show that's out now, the women of the movement, right? And the first one is about Emmett Till and Mamie Till. I cannot watch that. We have absorbed enough trauma, enough Black trauma. Unless I am going to learn something new about the story, I can't put myself through that.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that ends up happening too is, are we really reaching with representation? People, are we reaching people whose minds need to be changed, or are we continually preaching to the choir? The people who are watching the women of the movement, the people who actually will be changed by watching that? Or, I mean, and that's not to say that there are not learnings, because they're unfortunately, because of the educational system, there are a lot of us that don't know the stories as much as we need to. And so I think that, yeah, representation is important, but I think there is more conversation underneath that needs to be had about intention, about purpose, so that we are not tap dancing.
Amen. 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 I love it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think too, as you're talking, I'm really struck by this idea that everybody has their space in the movement, right? So you may not be a frontlines person, you may not be, right? And
Absolutely
so,
right.
right, there are, everybody has their ministry, so to speak.
We talk about this a lot on the Savage Chat series, that activism can happen anywhere. You can be an activist wherever you are, if the way that you are engaging your work and your life and the world around you is in a way that seeks to, and with intention, works against oppression. Now, there is oppression everywhere. It's not, there is, and that's why there should be no shortage of people engaging the world through the lens of activism, because there is no shortage of oppression that needs to be overturned. There's no shortage. It's everywhere. There are layers of it. There are layers of it. There are intersections of it. And so as much work as there is to be done, it means that all of us have a part to do in it. And what it is, all of our responsibilities to figure out what what that is and how we are supposed to navigate. How are we supposed to contribute to making a more equitable and more just society? We are responsible for being more ethical than the world we grew up in. We're responsible for that.
Yep. I love that. I love that. Yeah. So you talked a lot about this, but what are some of the other ways that you use your professional or your civic capacities to advance these issues of equity and justice? Because you do a lot outside of, some of the formalized entrepreneurship. You're in a lot of these spaces. So tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about that.
I mean, I think one of the things that we are trying, one of the things that is our mission to do is to do and connect in as many places as we can, given the gifts and talents that we've been given, to pull as many people up and be a part of things, movements, opportunities, connected to organizations that are helping to pull people up. So we use our brand to raise money through. So, for example, we're theater is something that we feel very strong because we're artists. So we're supporting Black Theater United by selling Vanessa Williams' shirt, and all of the proceeds go to Black Theater United. We've raised, money for them over the last year. We're partnering right now with Delgado Community College, as they have partnered with Apple to bring podcasting to local New Orleans high school students as a free opportunity to create podcasting programs in local schools. And so we're starting with the pilot at St. Augustine, my alma mater, and I'll be responsible for the community out. I'll be the liaison from Delgado and Apple to the school, to the community. And so these are, I there I think are big and small ways that all of us can contribute, as something as small as being deliberate about coming back to Xavier to talk to students, staying connected to my professors who are still there, so that when I'm in town, I can speak to their students. We have all got to do and figure out all of the things that we can involve ourselves in. Activism, like you said, is more and can be more than just protesting in the streets. And thankful to the folks who protest in the streets, because listen here, thankful for the frontline folks, but everybody has a role to play, and you're responsible for finding your role.
Yep.
There's
Wow.
work all around us. There's work all around us.
Yes, yes.
There's work all around us. And I'm not saying that everybody has a responsibility to give their life, but you do have a responsibility to find the parts of your life to give.
Mm. Now that's a word. That's a word.
You are responsible. You
Yeah.
are responsible for that. That's part of all of our calling and assignment.
Amen.
Yep.
Preach. Preach, Master. I love that. So, to your point, right? This is also a part of not just what you do, but who you are, right? That there's a piece of you that you've given to this work,
Mm,
right?
mm.
And so, how has your time at Xavier and your time along your journey kind of informed this commitment that you have now to
Yeah.
promoting a just, humane society?
So one, I'm the grandson of civil rights leaders. So I was, was reared at the feet of warriors. And so I think it was both in my blood, both my nature and my nurture, that I could not escape a life that was centered and rooted in both promoting a more just and humane society, but also loving Black people. And so coming to Xavier, which both there's this, this idea of service and truth, but also encountering professors, Dr. Beverly Mason, Dr. Shauna Miller, Dr. Pamela Waldron Moore, whose commitment to the way that they engaged the material, the way that they informed us about our responsibility to the world as we are studying the world. So we were both learning what we needed to know, but learning really why we needed to know it. Because we were going to need to know it to be able to do with it what we needed to in order to help the world around us become more just and more humane and more equitable. And so I look at the work that just my contemporaries at Xavier are doing in the community. Folks like Chris Stewart, the lawyer, the attorney, or Ronald Haley, the attorney, folks who have jumped into the front lines in the civil, directly into civil rights and are helping people. I mean, that kind of Xavier's, the folks that I encountered at Xavier, both that were around me learning at the same time, but those who also were responsible for my learning, continued to reinforce the commitment and the assignment. This is just furthering the assignment, and that's why it's so important, the tribe of people that you keep around you, because you need people around you who are going to continue to push you in the directions that you need to be going in this life.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. Wow, wow. So in light of that, given your journey, given all you've learned, right?
Mhm.
What is one thing that you would leave with a current Xavier student?
I'm going to give you what Dr. Pamela Waldron Moore gave me. Make it count. That sounds really, really both cliche, simple. Listen, if you keep that intention in everything that you do, to really and really understand what making it count means, it will never fail you. Always make it count. That's it. I would be remiss to not give the Xavier students today. I mean, listen. Thankfully, Pamela Waldron Moore is still at Xavier, giving her time and energy to the students there. But that is one of the things that helped guide me through and continues today to motivate me and to remind me of how important it is to make everything count.
Mhm, mhm. Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
that's powerful. That's powerful. I love that.